I've been told by everybody up on this roof that they're all off the roof. I am on the roof of exposure 4. Got fire through the roof of the fire building in the entire rear section.
Now remember, given the payday, has he been accounted for? Okay.
610B. That was the day date. 610B.
I'm here. We got a fire. 1.5-story, single-family dwelling. Fire shown from the second floor. Give me a second alarm on this.
Up to the top floor. I got people hanging out the top floor windows with a baby.
Commercial building. A lot of fire, a lot of smoke. Go ahead and strike a third alarm on my orders on this.
Got people on the front fire escape here with windows centered below them. We need somebody up there.
Yeah, let them know we got a job. I'm pulling up now. Second alarm, I got a 1-story single-family frame. Heavy fire showing from the attic.
So we're using all hands. We got one line stretch, fire on the 4th floor. Second line being stretched. Primary searches are underway.
Hey, welcome back to our Fire Engineering Podcast, The Command Post. I'm Chief Rick Lasky, along with my buddy, Chief John Sulka. And we want to thank you once again for joining us. Before we run down the path that leads us to our topic tonight, John, how about we? Well, first of all, let's. I think we want to send our condolences. New Haven, Connecticut. We know the chief there, John Alston. The group. It's a great group of firefighters and officers. Tragedy struck.
Absolutely, they lost a firefighter and another, at least one other's in serious condition. I know it's been a couple of days now, and I'm sure he's to some degree recovering. But they did, in fact, lose a firefighter in the line of duty, a young man, a young firefighter with a wife and a child, and I think another one on the way as well. Tragedy takes no vacations. It's a shame when it happens to anybody. New Haven, I don't think, has experienced a lot of line of duty deaths in their history, and whether you get them, once a year or once a decade, it's a tragic thing, and it's difficult for the department to handle. And no details are out yet on causes or contributing factors or anything. I'm sure there'll be some lessons to learn as always, but primarily our condolences, to New Haven and all the firefighters and administration and everybody up there.
Oh, it's we've both been through it. It's such a hard thing, and boy, heartbroken. Really, a brand new firefighter, married, wife, child, and I think she's expecting. They're expecting another one, and they folks for our listeners, they did I think they set up a GoFundMe page, but they also are selling T-shirts. They posted it. We've posted it. I know Billy Goldfeder has it on his firefighterclosecalls.com website. So I know Fire Engineering has been on top of this. But God bless you.
And for those that hear the T-shirt thing, it's something. And I don't want to claim that the FDNY invented it or started it, but I know over the years, over the past decades now, that we've been losing folks. Somebody started that very, very kind tradition of designing a T-shirt in the name and in honor of the firefighter that was killed. They sell them for whatever the fair price is that been going on for decades, as I said now, but and it almost instantly raises a real large pot of money for the family to just handle immediate expenses and things like paying the mortgage. And I know he's a career firefighter. He's probably going to have a line of duty death, benefit and things of that nature. And there may even be a pension tied into a line of duty death in a place like New Haven. However, this is immediate. It's this week. It's next week. All of a sudden, money starts rolling in, and the family cannot even. They don't even have to lay awake worrying about one thing, from funerals to whatever's going on in the family to et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It sounds terrible, but money does heal a lot of things and takes care of a lot of worries for a young family that loses somebody so suddenly like that. So it's a good and then that T-shirt becomes a lasting tribute. You put that T-shirt on, you and I have. Gosh, I hate to tell you, I get dozens and dozens and dozens of T-shirts with guys on it, names on it of guys that have passed and been killed on the line of duty. And I must tell you, every time I put one on, I look at it and I think for just a moment, I think about the guy and I say, a short prayer and hope they're, enjoying their just rewards.
Yeah, it's just that they're in a great place right now. But like you said, it helps bridge that gap. It helps bridge that gap, and we're helping we're all about family. We're thoughts and prayers.
And you know what? One more thing. I hate to interrupt you, but it's one more thing. It's another lesson that there is no there is no stopping it. Line of duty deaths and serious injuries, they're down tremendously from they were 20 or 30 or even 40 years ago. And, but they still happen, and they can happen anywhere, any day, any shift, any firefighter, any type of a call. There's no preventing it. Now, we know there's fire departments that work long and hard at not losing people and keeping their people safe and limiting injuries and deaths. But sometimes the sword just swings. Sometimes it just happens. And, some of them are explainable. Some of them are, obvious. And some of them, they have to search and search and search to find a couple of contributing factors and figure out exactly how something like that could happen. But like you said, this is a young firefighter with relatively limited experience. You get to go and work in fires, and folks with limited experience. We just met a couple today, class, right? A couple of 4 brand new probies come up from Spartanburg to say hello and greet us, and a couple of weeks in the firehouse. Boy, they've been in training. They graduated. They got a lot of education behind them, and they got zero experience, And one guy was a water filtration guy. One guy was a United States Navy veteran. And another guy was, from up north and went to college. And another guy worked, I forget what he said, in a swimming pool, something like that. But and there they are now fighting fires like the rest of us are. And it's a good reminder for all of us young folks, some of us that are supervising young folks or hiring young folks, or maybe yourself if you are a young firefighter, like my son Brian is down there in North Charleston. It's a dangerous job, and we always got to keep that in mind. Even when we start getting good, even when we start getting trained, even when we start feeling confident, there's always that possibility of stuff happening.
Well, and again, tragic. The word tragic doesn't even sound appropriate for what happened there and that. But you're talking about a fire department, New Haven, very good reputation, very good fire department,
busy,
great
lots
bosses,
of experience,
lots of experience, great leadership, great firefighters. So again, we started to say before, our thoughts and prayers, and are with our New Haven family, and to that firefighter. I know the lieutenant is recovering, and to that firefighter and their family, just please keep your thoughts and prayers. I'll say this: the only way, John, I guess I wrestle with it and win is I think about if that with something like that happening, I'm thinking. He's with Joey D right now, and he's with all these guys we've lost over the years.
Billy McGinn,
and they're talking shop, and they're talking about, you remember that job, and you just imagine the conversations going on up there.
You could only hope.
with these firefighters. So God bless you. Very tragic. Again, please keep your thoughts and prayers. With New Haven. John, one thing we need to cover before we move any further as well is FDIC. We try to mention this. We're on our fire engineering podcast, the Command Post. But let me see here. We're going to be in Indy this year, right now, before we get back to the normal April schedule, from August 2nd to August 7th, Monday the 2nd to Saturday the 7th. You and I are teaching out usually on Monday. We're doing from 1:30 to 5:30. We're doing a Chief Officers Field Training program, which is a portion of our Chief Officers Field Training Academy for shift chiefs and battalion chiefs and that. I'm on from 11 to 12:30 for the women in fire. I'm doing the small stuff, keeping your people safe and alive. We're in the book booth almost every day. Sign us, so if you're looking for us, we're going to be doing that. Waiting to hear if we're going to do our after hours with Bobby Halton, Bill Gustin, John Norman, ourselves, the two of us. Want to make sure that's going to be scheduled again. If check for that to be a for sure locked in thing. That's going to be from 5:30 to 9:15. I'm sorry, to 7:15. 5:30 to 7:15 in the big room. And then Friday, you and I are teaching in the morning, as we often do. We're teaching from 8:30 to 10:15, doing the 3 Degrees of Mayday. 3 Degrees of Mayday. So
popular
folks,
program.
Oh, very. And so to our listeners, if for some reason you don't, you're looking for us, can't find us, you know what? You can find us in our classrooms, find us in the book booth.
That's it.
We're going to be we're going to be in the Dingus Fire Booth. Our friends from Dingus, Nick Dingus and Jeff Bryant from Amboy, Illinois, and Sublette. We're doing it because we love them. Dingus has helped me with my volunteer department and my volunteer fire department, Wichita West. And Amboy helped our volunteer fire department. So you and I are going to go. We're gonna do some book giveaways for them. So
Excellent.
So
That'll be fun.
pay attention and make a note of that, and come on over and hang out with us in the booth for that hour or so, and we'll be giving away free books and signing them and visiting with you. So John, let's talk topics. One of the topics you and I have talked about before, like many of them that we go, okay, we got to talk about this, talk about that, came up during one of our scenarios-based class, and that was, I guess it would be, well, maybe you could call it support functions on the fire ground, additional tasks at the fire ground. You know, we've always talked about the initial tack line. We've talked about the primary search. We talked about the roof, and then secondary lines and secondary searches and incident command and RIT and stuff like that. But the one thing I think we've strayed away from in our shows, we talk about class all the time, is softening the building. That phrase, softening the building. We've mentioned it before with the RIT team. There's things the RIT team could do to soften the building. But I guess for this particular episode, let's talk about what it means to soften that building. Maybe we'll start off with a residential structure. We've got a fire in the building, line stretched in, search crews going to work, roof crews going to work. Let's talk about it.
So we always spend a lot of time, and we both have a lot of experience doing it, both from the inside and from the outside. You know, getting the interior operation underway, getting that first line stretch and the first search team underway and a backup line and all the other things that may be required based on whatever type of building it is, however large it is, you know, the fire load and location and all that. However, there's also at the same time some stuff going on the outside of the building. I hate to call it outside work, but it primarily is outside work. But it's all stuff that's really supportive and really helps us with the interior attack as well. It certainly helps the incident commander. Some of it is directly beneficial. Some of it, like even some outside ventilation work is outside work, right? And softening the building. Some of it's immediately helpful. For example, outside ventilation. Some of it is planning for the future. Some of it is like throwing ladders to here and to there and to everywhere. And these ladders just might sit there. They may sit there for the whole fire and never be touched, but they're in position should something come up, a tactical reason or maybe even a survival.
Well, and you and I've talked about the Mayday in Flower Mound. It was the last one I had with Captain John Wright, and success story because they got out. He got burned a little bit, but they got out. They lived, and they're working and doing great things. But one of the things, not to get into that whole incident, was when they came out that window onto that rear lower roof, they came down a ladder that was set there by the OV from the truck prior to the Mayday. Before there was ever a Mayday mentioned, the OV said, hey, as per SLG, I'm going to set a ladder to the front, I'm going to set a ladder to the rear, and walked away from it. Didn't smash windows out with it, didn't do anything, just set it right up there, and guess who came out onto that roof, and guess who used that ladder to get down after that room flash, that fire blown out over there.
And that's a great point that you just made. I mean, actually, it's several great points. The first one is that it was done as a preemptive action, and it was done before there was any Maydays or even any tactical reason to put the ladder there, other than a possible future, right, climbing site or escaping site. But the other thing that you just mentioned is that they didn't drop the ladder against the window and vent the window with the tip and then lower it down to the sill and leave it in position. They didn't take that action because sometimes premature or improper venting of windows on the second floor, let's say of a house fire, could cause the fire to spread or could cause something to happen on the interior that might create a negative situation for the interior firefighter. So although throwing the ladders around early sometimes is a good idea, it's not always necessary or even correct to necessarily vent a window with the tip of a ladder just because you happen to be putting it up a little bit.
Yeah, and sometimes you're just setting it to this. You're setting, in fact, most of the times we don't use it for anything. We take, and we may have a nickel's worth of fire in a building. Okay. We have what we call, all of a sudden it's called 1075 or working fire, whatever. And somebody, whether it's the driver operator that takes a moment to set a ladder or another crew or whatever, or the RIT team, they just, boom, they set a ladder to a front window and to a back window. And sometimes, I'm not as much concerned, John, with which window it is. Sometimes if as long as it's not over something downstairs, it's going to vent, out. Sometimes it's impossible. Windows are windows, they line up. But it's almost like I'd rather stick it somewhere in the middle, because if I have to roll it, I'm going to roll it left or right. If somebody comes to a window, I'm not trying to get it all the way down. If I'm by myself and I got to roll this ladder down, I'm not going from all the way from the left side of the building to the right. Somewhere in the middle so I can go right or left, and just set it. Just all you gotta do is set.
But you agree it should be at a window.
Oh,
And if you're going to put the ladder up and it's not against the window, you certainly waste your time. Now somebody's got to take additional action to help a guy that shows up at a window. So you throw it at one window, maybe centrally located, so you can go left or right, or maybe even just leave it where it is.
Gotta be
not necessarily vent with it, but position it. And like I said, this can be done by a number of different people. And certainly folks that get used to doing this softening activity, they don't throw one ladder. They throw one on the left, they throw one on the right, maybe one on the rear, depending on how big the house is, maybe even a couple. You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes it's front or rear right away. It's like, let's get one to the front and rear of the building right away. And that was a great point you made. Is like, why are you even setting a ladder if you're not going to put it to a window?
Right.
You know, they're not going to come out a wall. You know.
I mean, then you look at a little peaked roof house that's one story in the front, and then a peaked roof going up, and then a peaked roof going down, and the side, the gable ends are the two tallest sides of the house. In that case, you may throw it on a number 2 and a number 4, or the B and the D side to hit that top attic window, and just leave it in position.
And that comes back to what we've said numerous times: understanding your buildings, understanding the layout, everything, the means of egress for people. You know,
and Frank Brannigan, knowing your building,
knowing which is a bathroom window versus a bedroom window, and which is, and so on and so forth. And just like you said, you know what, you may be looking at a house that's facing that direction from left to right. You know, the old Cape Cods with the doghouse doors in the front, or maybe two, and you got a double hung or whatever on each gable side, and that's gonna be your best shot.
Right. So now before we jump around to other tactics, because there are other softening tactics we're going to talk about, I always like to talk a little bit about the ladders and who is doing this. Now, you already mentioned one possibility. It could be the engineer, it could be the truck chauffeur, could be one of the drivers or one of the fire apparatus, right?
And people will say, "But wait a minute, you know," and you know, it's like the people that say you can never leave your pump panel. Like, well, you know what? Nowadays, especially with pump indicator lights or whatever, early on, you pull up with your engine, your crew gets off, captain does your 360, you stretch a line, all of a sudden, boom, send water, you start water, in they go. You're waiting for the rest of the cavalry to come. Maybe the truck gets there or somebody now it's like you're pumping and you're really, maybe even have your hydrant already. You're not doing a whole lot.
Right.
And I'm a big believer in a lot from the firefighter safety survival standpoint of things, but you know, every firefighter should be taught they should be trained in how to perform the single firefighter carry and raise of an extension ladder. Right. Because, you know, let's say, all right, you do it 100 times, you throw a ladder up there and the crew does, and that's great, it's in place, and you take it back down, put it back. What about the one time the engine's in there making an attack, the search crew's in there, the roof crew's up there, and somebody's at a window.
Right. Somebody pops out.
And you're like, well, it's just me.
Right.
You know,
can't wait for somebody to disengage and come out.
That's right. So you know what? Train your people in the single firefighter, you know, carry and raise of an extension, a ground ladder, portable ladder, however you refer to it. So that's one person.
That's one. Now the other option is, you know, some fire departments, and I'll just mention volunteer fire departments in particular, because some volunteer departments, not even some, I think the correct term is many volunteer fire departments have exterior people. They have exterior firefighters, some young junior people, maybe not junior firefighters, but young people who haven't maybe finished their full interior training and things of that nature. So they're still there. They're still geared up. They're still covered by the insurance. They're still responding on the apparatus, and they can do a lot of work outside. They can be the team of young firefighters that throws that portable ladder, 1 or 2 or 3 of them around here or there from the outside.
Maybe a couple senior firefighters that choose no longer to go inside.
And that's the same thing.
They've been throwing ladders longer than you and I have been alive.
Folks that have been interior firefighters for 20 or 30 or 40 years and now are slowing down a little bit, but they're still dedicated volunteers. They're still responding on the apparatus, still get up at 2 in the morning, going to the structure fire call, and now 2 of them are on the back. You know, I've seen ex-captains and things of that nature in the volunteer fire service working hard, putting the gloves on, and good, dedicated, fit guys and gals that can get the job done, but they're just not going on the inside anymore, right? So there they are, putting ladders up. Now, the other group of people we talked about are people that may go inside, but you got the RIT team, the fast truck. You get the folks that are there and geared up and equipment staged and ready to go. And again, there's so many things they can do without going in and before they get deployed, and putting up ladders is one of them. Outside activities is one of the things that some people, I can't imagine they disagree with me, but some people don't like to use the RIT team to do outside stuff. I find no problem with it at all. Use the RIT team to do some outside activities that don't get them too far away from, you know, the front of the building where they're going to have to grab some tools and deploy.
And I've heard people say, well, we don't want to wear out the RIT team. Really? how poor a shape are they that they can't throw a couple ladders for you, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
And I agree. We've said it from the beginning. And it even says the initial rat prevention crew could perform other support functions as long as they're able to readily redeploy as RIP, meaning you don't go on air, you don't go inside.
Right.
So you can throw ladders. They can take bars off, and they can do. There's a lot of things they can do till we get the rest of
And
the
everybody's
troops
wearing radios now. Everybody's equipped with radios. If you're not, you're a damn fool.
Yeah.
If the fire department's not providing you with radios, the chief needs to go work in a post office or something because it's just not right. and it's beyond comprehension at this point. So the fact that everybody's radio means RIT team, get to the front. We got a possible deployment coming up. Boom. If they're not in the process of putting a ladder up, they can drop it. They can just drop whatever they're doing and report back to the front and immediately deploy with little or even no delay.
So we talked about the driver operator being able to throw a ladder. We talked about some of your exterior crews or whatever. We
Various
talked about
outside teams.
the
Yep.
RIT or fast team, which every RIT or fast team should be thinking about throwing that. Especially once you get all your tools ready, you're standing there waiting for an assignment. Go to command, say, Chief, how about we throw a ladder to the front, one to the back? And 9 times out of 10, the good bosses are going to go, you
Absolutely.
got it. You got it.
It makes no sense not to. By design, you're there. By design, you're staying outside, right? Why not get a little workout up front? Warm them up. I think it's almost like a warm up. It's like a warm up lap. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And I've seen people use the second due truck as they pull up on the scene, they arrive. Truck guys should be proficient with ladders anyway. They get up there, they report to command for an assignment if they weren't given an assignment on the radio. They show up, hey, Chief, for second due. Good. Throw me a ladder to the front, throw me a ladder back, come back and get me. Or throw me a ladder front, ladder back, and then I want you to do this, or we're getting ready.
Sometimes those are the guys they deploy to the roof or to the outside vent job. So a lot of departments have the inside trucks, number one, and the number 2 truck, the second due truck is the outside truck. And we could list a whole host of duties that they have to do or could be eligible to do.
So throw ladders proactively outside, setting them up, ahead of time. There's one of, we're talking softening the building.
Yep.
You know what, before we get too far down the path with outside tasks, if you will, by a truck crew, would you consider, stretching? We've talked about this. I know it's not softening the building per se, but we've talked before about stretching that second line, getting it on the ground, getting it charged, ready. The crew's not there yet. You're the driver. You got one line charged. Maybe you're not going to charge the second one because you're not, or you got your hydrant or whatever. Stretching that second line, have it laying right there. It's flaked out, ready to go. Now a crew gets there. They don't have to do nothing but walk up, mask up, boom, and they go with that line.
I always thought that was a great idea. It's not something we would ever do in FDNY because we get enough people, enough engines coming in. They grab their own line and show up as necessary. But in smaller departments or in volunteer departments or in places to get thinner resources, yeah, I see no problem with that at all. The first 2 crew could be an officer and 1 firefighter and the MPO outside, right? The chauffeur outside. And then when that gets underway, charged and moving in and other people are coming and doing some other outside work, all of a sudden that engineer, that pump operator, that chauffeur can grab that second cross light, especially if you only got 2. Now, if you got 3, maybe there's a choice, but maybe you just grab the longer one for that matter. And you know what? Drag it to the front, fully deploy it, fully flake it out, and it's immediately available. Now engine 2 comes rolling in, engine 7 comes rolling in, the second engine. And if the chief wants a line, that engineer can speak right up and say, hey, we get the second lines ready at the front door, Cap. You got it. It takes a couple of uncertainties away. One of them is, gee, where are you going to stretch that second line from? Guess what? You don't have to decide. It's already been done. And the engineer knows that the second line is the line that he pulled to the front door, and he knows what unit's going to it. So sometimes it clarifies things, and it sort of makes, and certainly speeds up the stretching of that second line. That second engine rolls in, and the chief says, good, I need you right away. You get to the floor above. We got to report a fire on the floor above. Now that second engine, the line's at the front door, Cap. Goes to the front door, and he boom. It's already out. It's already flaked. They just got to get their SCBAs on and make a move,
Absolutely. So we talked about throwing ladders. We talked about stretching it, second line or whatever, having it ready for the next due crew.
Mm-hmm.
How about would you consider utilities?
Yeah, you know what? And it's not one of my favorite activities at the scene of a fire. I can honestly tell you I have never, ever, I've never pulled a meter at a building. I may have been at 1 or 2 in my early years in the Minneola Fire Department out in Long Island in Nassau County. I know we used to pull meters back then. Somebody used to pull meters. It was never me. I know that's tremendously dangerous work for folks that are not trained to do that and don't have any experience.
What do they say? there's one way to do it right. There's a lot of ways to do it wrong.
Right. And there's one way to do it right and you're okay. And there's a lot of ways to do it wrong and get killed or have a serious injury. Now, I know there are some new type of electrical systems in homes where the outside meter actually has a switch where emergency crews can turn it off without endangering themselves or exposing themselves to anything live, which is wonderful stuff too. And I think it's more than about time for that. And the other way, which you mentioned last time we spoke about it, was, somebody from the interior can penetrate to wherever the a fuse box is and throw a main down there and at least get most of the interior electrical.
A lot of the newer houses, I know a lot of them, all the years I've been in Texas, a lot of them, the circuit breaker box is in the garage. If the garage isn't involved and the OV gets popped the door, it's right there. You walk in, boom, you hit the main breaker. At least it's off from the breaker box into the house.
Right. And at least when guys doing overhauling or pulling walls out or pulling ceilings, you're not going to end up, with a live electrical house current wire.
Quarter turn on the gas meter, and that's taken care of. Okay.
Right.
So let's talk force.
Now I want to make. I do want to interrupt you for one moment. I want to make a differentiation between a house fire and, let's say, an apartment building fire. You don't want to start turning gas off at large multifamily buildings because it's quite a hassle for it to get turned back on. And I'm not saying if there's a danger, if there's some kind of a leak or something going on or a gas-fed fire, that's one thing. But sometimes routinely turning off. Now, if you can just turn off an apartment gas, just from one apartment, that works out fine. But I know, like Con Ed, the utility companies in New York City always frown upon us doing big main turnoffs for big buildings because it makes it real difficult for them to, then they got to go in and actually get into each apartment, make sure everything gets turned off first before they turn
it's quite the process.
Yes, it is. But in a house fire, that should be no problem at all. Single family residence,
taking that. So exactly. So good point. But so let's talk forcible entry, softening the building, forcible entry. So let's talk residential structure. Okay, that could be some of what the OV does. If you don't run an OV, an outside vent person, outside vent man, whatever, and some of us are running minimum staffing, John. When you're running an engine, you get the engine at the initial tack line, you got a vent crew going, maybe a search crew, and you're like, I got two more guys that just showed up, and you're trying to decide what they're going to do. And we've talked before about maybe you're going to have them, hoof it to the back of the building, shut the gas off on the way. Maybe they throw a ladder to the front, hit the gas, come back, they drag a ladder back there, they get back there, they go, guys are going through the front door. Maybe we need to force that back door like we talked about before. Get that back door open, wedge it open, give a second means of egress for the interior crew, and maybe give a little opening, a little exhaust opening for their push. So it's not pushing back over their heads. It's
always a good idea to get all entrances and exits, unlocked or forced open. So if anybody runs into trouble inside, they can make a hasty retreat out of any opening. They're not going to end up at a double locked door inside, or even the rear kitchen door going out to the dang deck behind the house. They can see out the window, but they can't get out the door. Some people get the double locked doors that lock from the inside and all that. So another good job for that outside, quote unquote, outside team, whether it's those young fellas or maybe the senior people. Again, especially those senior people, they probably got some pretty good forcible entry experience, and they can make their way around. Maybe double up on throwing a ladder, turning the gas off, and doing a door. Or it could even be a specialty where they're just coming in. A couple more people show up, say, listen, I want you guys to go around. Any window bars you see, I want you to pop it. When you get around the back, I want you to pop that rear door on the deck and make sure that's open and unobstructed.
What do you think about we're talking about softening the building? Would you also include, and this is me, maybe this is about throwing a second means of egress ladder for a roof crew? Roof crew comes up one direction, or they got a butt, whatever. They're off the bucket, off the ladder, working. We've always talked about trying to get sometimes easy to throw two aerial ladders, one here, one there, but when you can't do that and they're up there venting, would you consider, those outside guys, hey, do me a favor, throw a ladder on the B side of the roof in case they get
absolutely. I'll tell you what, you just get a regular little cape, a little house, a little one-family house, one-family private dwelling, maybe even a two-family, with a peak roof, even a flat roof. It's not unlimited, but there's an awful lot of outside work to get done. And I can't imagine that you would stop any outside team from just continuing to work. Okay, Chief, you got a couple ladders up on the three sides except the front, and we turned the gas off on the way back. Back door's already been popped. Anything else? Yeah, you know what? The roof team's climbing up on the front. They didn't put two ladders up. Instead of putting the aerial up, why don't you guys run around the back? Throw another ladder. We got plenty of ladders here, right? I don't know what the ladder numbers are. Somebody could probably recite it. Maybe you can. What the footage of ladders is. It's supposed to be on ladder trucks now. I know it's been going down. The NFPA numbers, the required numbers, have been going down over the years, and I'm not quite sure why that is. But the point is, there's plenty of ladders, and every engine's got one or two, maybe a straight and an extension.
Somebody's got one out there.
I've never been to a house fire when they said, "Sorry, Chief, we're all out of ladders." You know, so throwing just that one
Wait,
more.
Our buddies in Boston may do it. Boston throws
man.
the
LA
Boston
too.
Fire Department, LA, throw ladders. Boston throws
Boston
ladders.
more than anybody.
Well, you know what, Boston, not to get off that topic though, you know, I remember a couple of buddies from Boston telling me before, you know why we throw a lot of ladders? Because if we don't, we'll burn a whole block of those triple deckers down.
Yeah.
We throw ladders, we get in, that's how I'm like,
Yeah.
They throw ladders, but
Yeah, you made me think of Leo. Again, Leo Stapleton. We lost him recently. Another legend in the American Fire Service that out there teaching and banging the drum and helping the fire service and helping everybody. But Boston is one of them big ladder places. Any picture you see of a Boston fire, I think they get every ladder off the rig. So back to your question, absolutely. Maybe post, pre-laddering, doing that laddering that's not necessary yet, but will help later. Yeah, all of a sudden you see they got a roof team going up there. Say, you know what? Well, maybe even before, a good forward-thinking incident commander might say, okay, Tommy and Billy, you guys get around the rear. Do me a favor, throw another ladder back, but send it up to the roof. Put a ladder up to the roof, because the next truck that gets in, we're going to send them up to the roof to do some venting, and they'll throw one up in the front to get up there. But you'll have the second one. Put it on the right side in the rear somewhere. They'll probably climb up over here. So another great outside tactic that we mentioned 4 or 5 things that a bunch of people could get involved doing, and nobody's got a face. Nobody's even got SCBA on their back, maybe.
But think about and yes, it's only 4 or 5 things. But again, let's go back to, you got your initial tack line stretch, and you got a roof crew doing the roof, you got a search team. And what may appear to some people might be listening and says, well, that's really not a big a deal. Well, it is a big deal if you show up in a window and you got fire nipping at your ass, and you get out, and somebody can roll a ladder over to the next one to get you out. It is a big deal if you're up on a roof venting and you get caught or whatever, and you're going, well, I can't get to my ladder now.
We've seen the pictures.
You go, oh yeah.
We've seen the videos. The guy's up on a roof walking around at the venting hole, and all of a sudden one guy goes through up to his waist, and the other guy starts pulling him up, and maybe they can't make it back to the other.
Yeah.
Listen, 2 ladders to the roof when you're operating a roof is an SOP. That's the standard. That's not even an option. We're just talking about maybe some other crew could put the other one up for you, you know?
And the old magazine cover from Jersey City, when that firefighter came to the mesh in the front, you look at this and you couldn't tell because the wind was pushing against.
That's from my Get Out Alive program. I use that. I can see that photo right now.
I've got the magazine cover, and they're trying to get him a face piece in there so he can breathe.
I know.
And I'm like, here's and Jersey City's great fire department.
There's a great fire
department. But there's another example of, you know what, softening the building. You know what you got? I want you got nothing to do. Start popping all those screens off.
If somebody earlier in the operation had gone by there with a Halligan or a hook, or maybe even a saw, however they managed to do it, I'm not getting into the detail of that. If somebody had walked around the building and said, wow, look at these things. Let's pry these babies off. Pry it off. When he showed up there, he would have tumbled out before anybody got to him, right?
We wouldn't even be talking about it.
Those tactics of putting the ladders up at potential escape sites, freeing up some of the windows of either bars or screens or things of that nature, those are dramatic things that go unheralded. They go unnoticed at a lot of fires because nobody ends up needing them. But if you get in the habit of doing them, and if you get some of your outpipe people or your chauffeurs or your rig team, I mean, think of all the people we listed, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a lot of people eligible to do that work for you while some of your interior firefighters are making that push on the inside, doing the important work that they do.
Well, and you mentioned just that, and I guess nothing is insignificant on the fire ground. Nothing is, every little thing you do, you contribute in a positive way. You contribute to the success of that incident, or if somebody gets jammed up, to the success of getting them out uninjured and or alive. So,
or your own survival.
Oh, exactly. You may be climbing out onto the same ladder you stuck out there.
That's right. If you know. Now I go to a house fire one time a couple of years ago. It was upstate in Orange County, and we were mutual aid to them, and it was an evening, and it was roaring in the back. I think a barbecue or something had lit the deck on fire, and the deck was roaring. It was quickly extended to the back of the building, but it was not an interior structural fire operation. It was It was the outside deck burning, up the rear of the house, catching under the eaves, starting to get in there a little bit, but there wasn't like a room started on fire in that house. It was trying to get in there, but it wasn't quite in there yet. So we get there. It was an obvious working fire. They gave mutual aid right away. So we get there. Now I'm walking across the grass. I got a flashlight. Now I'm a chief officer, so I'm not gearing up to run in right now. But I'm walking across the grass. Big old beautiful green front lawn. I'm walking across the grass on the log, and I'm going like this with my flashlight. I'm sort of sweeping back and forth on the ground with my flashlight. And one or two guys are walking with me. And one of them says, "Chief, what are you doing?" I said, "What am I doing? You don't know what I'm doing?" He said, "No." I said, "I'm looking for wires. This is nighttime now. If you saw a wire dangling down in the middle of the day, you'd say, 'Careful, look, there's a wire down. It might be in the grass.' But now it's nighttime. I can't even see the pole that's connected to this house."
Before you step on it.
That's right. Before you step on it and ruin your day. That's right. So little stuff like that, just keeping your eyes open and being aware of a little situational awareness, approaching a burning building, touching a metal fence around the front yard of a house that the wire is down in the backyard and you don't even know it's back, right? Little stuff like that is all important. And nothing we talked about yet here, none of them is inside the building yet. And they're all dangerous situations that you're either alleviating for somebody else, or for yourself.
Well, and this has been, a half hour-ish or so of talking about just the process of softening the building. One thing, I always mention too is, it may not sound a big deal, but it is come evening. You know what? How about a cord reel to the back or some lights? How about we do a little scene? If you can't let, the front you lit up with your rig, maybe you run a reel to the back, light up the back of the building. Give the guys the ability to see some things at nighttime out there. But
even just throwing them little tower lights, all the new engines and trucks all got them tower lights now. You release it, you slide it up, you throw a switch, no electricity, no cables, no. You throw them up, you light the place up a little bit.
Yeah.
We always did without that years ago, or you had to run a Circle D with an extension cord. Now it's so simple. Even engineers can do that now. And first new engine chauffeur sitting out front pumping, he can throw some lights up right off his own rig while he's there.
Well, hey. There you go, softening the building.
Absolutely.
We've been wanting to talk about that. We talk about it in class all the time. We just haven't done it on one of our podcasts. So
I guess we need more staffing now to get that outside work done too.
Well, hey folks, we appreciate you, tuning in and join us again for our Fire Engineering Podcast, The Command Post. You can catch us with our Hump Day Hangout. Normally, when we're all available, the 5, John, myself, Chief Bobby Halton, my Hump Day co-host, if you will. Terry and I that was our deal, and we decided we're going to go with the 5. So Terry McGrath from Louisville, assistant chief, a good friend. Yep. Scott Tom from the counties.
I love Scott.
Catch us the third Wednesday of every month, and FDIC coming up in August. So one more time, thoughts and prayers. Our hearts go out to New Haven on the loss of their firefighter. Like I said, I'll say it again, John. I could picture Joey D waiting for him.
Yeah.
Come here. Hey, and, 2 young guys up there talking.
Yep.
And just, I really
great place, Connecticut. They got a lot of great fire departments, great aggressive fire departments up there that have been successful over the years, and our hearts are broken with the loss of this young man.
It's that song, by the 2 brothers. If there's a rock and roll heaven. If there's a firefighter heaven, man, I really want to believe there is.
They got a hell of a firehouse there.
They're up there. So, hey, folks, we appreciate it. John, if they want to get a hold of you,
Chief John Salka at gmail.com.
And Chief Lasky at gmail.com. We appreciate you. You can catch, again, all these shows. You can go back in the archives and listen to ones you missed. We appreciate you tuning in and joining us. We'll catch you next time around. We end all of our shows by asking you to please keep the men and women in our armed forces in your thoughts and prayers. Be careful. Take care. God bless you. We'll catch you next time.